come the thing. The thing done become the thing. The thing done become the thing. The thing done become the thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Art, episode 4. This episode is with writer, publisher David Nazario. Before I continue, I would like to inform you guys that I will be performing at Shrine World Music Venue in Harlem on Thursday, May 7th, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can find out more about this show and other shows that I would be doing by visiting my website, lorenstuno.com, or the website of the podcast, doingart.net. I also would like to urge you to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, because when you subscribe, iTunes is able to recommend the podcast to more people, and this way I would have reasons to keep making the podcast since it's free. I can only keep making it if I know that people are listening. All right, so subscribe. Okay, this episode is with David Nazario, as I mentioned before. Among the many things David does, he is the chief editor and publisher of Mute Magazine. I really enjoyed this episode because it happened so naturally. David was very forthcoming, and the episode is also very educative because he goes deep into the workings of a publication. You can find out more about David. You can read more about the magazine by just going to the website of the podcast, doingart.net. David also talked about making it as a writer and growing up in a small city. All right, I don't want to give away a lot. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, David Nazario, in your face.
A rainy day has come. Oh my goodness. You try to keep up, spite of weakness. I bring you no one, leaving you so blue.
David Nazario, welcome to Doing Art.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Hello. All right, you lived in Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
Reading, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. But now you live in New York.
Yes.
And I also live in New York. Then I lived in Pittsburgh. And we both ended up in New York.
Yes, PA to NYC.
Yeah. We both actually ended up at Washington Heights. But now you've moved to Brooklyn.
Yes.
Shame on you.
I gotta explore. a little bit.
Yeah, that happens. That's New York. How is New York treating you?
Well, it's treating me well. I mean, I can't complain. It's an exhausting place, but
It is.
I'm loving the new experience, and it's treating me well.
Oh, so what would you say has been like the big? I know my big adjustments. Like, I want to hear yours. Tell me.
My biggest adjustment probably would just be not having time to eat. Like, I'm just always on the go. Sometimes I might leave the house at literally 8 in the morning. So I have 2 part-times in between the other things that I'm doing. And I might have to go, work from 8 to 11 and then grab something to eat while I'm out.
Interesting.
And then be at the next job at 2. And then after that, go to an event for my, for the magazine or for what have you. So it's a long day. And most times you can't just eat at home like I used to in Pennsylvania. You're always on the go eating. And just adjusting to and accepting all the energy that's here.
Yeah,
It's a very energetic place.
Of energy. Yeah. And so I've discovered that, like, I work in the Bronx, Riverdale, to be precise. I've discovered that sometimes I just find it difficult picking the right thing to eat,
Right.
Yeah. I for the past week, I've just been eating the same thing
Which is what?
Chinese food.
Pizza. My guess was pizza, but
Chinese
okay.
food, the same Chinese food, all like shrimp lo mein. like just the same problem you described, finding time to eat. Yeah, but I discovered that amongst all the disadvantages or all the downfalls that I've experienced in New York, there are some other good things I've experienced. Like, I don't drive anymore. I love that,
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked the first time I moved here. The first week, I got 2 tickets the same day. Each of them for $150.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because in Pennsylvania, like in Pittsburgh, for instance, if you park your car and you get a ticket, you could just leave your car there till the next day.
Right.
But I parked my car and I got a ticket. And I'm like, okay, I'll just find the ticket. Now I found the parking spot. I might as well just leave my car there.
Right.
And when I came back like 3 hours later on,
2 tickets?
2 tickets. So I had to quickly move my car to like a garage or something. Yeah. Yeah. So that's New York. So let's talk about the magazine Mute.
Okay.
Because that was how I got acquainted with you. I was featured on one of the you call it volumes or editions?
One of the issues.
One of the issues,
yep.
Okay. I don't know all these publication terms.
It's all good.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I want to thank you again.
Oh,
officially,
no problem.
face to face.
Thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you. Okay. So, I want to talk about your role in Mute.
Okay.
I had your partner, Theron. He's mainly the creative director. And
Founder and creative
director. I didn't know that, So he kind of educated me both on the podcast and after the podcast, educated me on the workings of a publication, But I want to hear your own side of things. Are you the main editor?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So if you don't mind, can you tell me what you do and how you run things, and maybe talk about the whole team of Mute?
Okay. Well, I got involved. I'll talk a little bit about just my history with Mute. I got involved years ago, maybe like 7 years ago. I was fresh out of college, and I was just looking for writing opportunities, just anywhere, just looking whatever was out there.
Yeah.
And I ended up finding this company that was actually in my hometown, Reading, Pennsylvania, and it was Theron, and he had a friend of his named Perry who actually helped him start the magazine as well, and they were looking for writers.
Right.
So I came on board and I was doing some writing for them, just on a freelance level, and I had the great opportunities. I interviewed rappers like Styles P and G Unit when G Unit was really popular at the time. Wow. So I was just grateful for that opportunity, and slowly but surely I became like a regular writer and then a regular part of the team, and we found that Theron and I worked really well together. And he needed kind of somebody more in a partner type of role, somebody to be senior editor and then move up to editor in chief, and that's where I'm at now as far as we work really well together. We're very like-minded, and we get the job done. He's the creative director and all the illustrative stuff, all the art direction, and I'm assigning articles to the different writers, editing all the articles, coming up with story ideas, and we work really well together. So it's been working. We love what we're doing.
That's what's up. When I saw the magazine the first time I saw it, I was so shocked. I didn't know that was. I didn't expect that amount of work put into a magazine.
Oh, thank you.
I thought you guys were beginning, but I didn't know that you guys had gone way farther than I thought. And I saw that there's like a theme, like a radio theme, like the magazine is called Mute. That's one thing. I wanted to know where the name comes from. Is that an acronym?
Yeah, it's an acronym for Music Under the Edge. So that was Theron's idea, and it's very, it's very audio based. Like he put a whole lot of thought just to the whole idea around it and turning sound up. You know what I mean? So it's the idea that these new artists, these undiscovered artists, they may be being muted. Their music under the edge. They're not getting the coverage by mainstream artists. So we want to, like we say, we amplify the artist before you hear them.
That's what's up. That's
really the goal of it, just to celebrate the artists who are making great music from all different genres, and we just want to help them get their message and music out there.
Was Mute how you met Theron?
Yes, we actually went to the same high school. He was a grade younger than me.
Okay.
But we didn't know each other in high school.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I had a friend in particular who I went to school with in Nigeria, back in Nigeria. He was, I don't know, we have elementary school, which is 6 years, and then secondary school, which is another 6 years. So he went to my secondary school up until the third year, and then he left. Then I saw him here at my undergraduate university, Duquesne University, and he didn't know me. he didn't remember me. But then I knew I've seen the face. Okay. Yeah, and I'm like, aren't you? Did you go to? He's like, yeah. And then we started talking, and he remembered who I was, and he was like really good friends with a few of my other friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I want to talk more about Mute, in particular, the way you guys launch your each issue. I feel like in addition to the amount of work you put into developing the publication, you're also kind of relentless in making the launch something to be talked about. For instance, like the mixer, I attended one of your mixers, and it was a beautiful event. It was kind of low key. That one, I think, that was low key, but it was beautiful. I met a lot of people, and it's a kind of place I want to be. And I saw that most of the people there were really happy to be there. Do you want to talk a little bit about your mixers? Yeah.
Sure. We when we put out the issues, we put out print issues 4 times a year. Then we have the website to supplement that, mutemag.com, mutemag.com. Okay. So when we put out our issues 4 times a year, we usually like to have an event to go with it, just a celebration. It's actually as much as it's a celebration for the new issue, it's a celebration for me and Theron as well, and the team. We're just happy that we've been able to put out another issue independently, and really and put quality artists in the issue, and we stay up literally nights, like
I know
hours and hours just to get it out. And sometimes that's through our own fault, because we sometimes wait to get things done. Yeah. But so when the issue comes out, we're happy. We're excited about it. So it's just it's an opportunity for the cover artist to come, and any artist that was featured in the issue, and hopefully perform some music. We actually did a concert mixer in Pennsylvania, and we had artists come and perform at that one at a really nice gallery space in Reading. And then the most recent one that we did in December was at a clothing store that was actually featured in the magazine, and that was Fresthetic clothing store in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
So you guys release an issue every quarter, right? My question, the magazine is beautiful. It's a beautiful work of art and work of the brain. Don't you think people kind of hunger for more than just 4 times a year?
That's a good question. Maybe they might.
Have you ever thought about that, or have you ever polled people?
We haven't polled people. We've definitely had conversations about it. Okay. A lot of people don't even, get print anymore. Like, everybody's pretty much online. So we feel like by doing it 4 times a year, we feel like we can, keep the quality of it up, so we're not rushing to get something out monthly. But we feel like 4 times a year is a good pace, and it just pays homage to that, to actually having a print, tangible copy in your hand. Because I feel like eventually this digital stuff can only get but so big before it just pops, and then you go back to the basics.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I've been thinking about that lately. If you look at the trend, it kind of seemed like it's just gonna keep becoming more digital and more digital. But after a while, there wouldn't be any more substance in digital. Right. It would just be one of those things. People start appreciating for lack of a better word, lack of a better phrase, the good things, the better version of things, which is like print. I said a better version because don't get me wrong, I really support I like digital material. Yeah, but there's more substance in having a publication in your hand than just going online and just looking at things. You don't know who it's coming from. You don't know how the amount of work that's been put in it to be presented that way. Yeah. Now, what kind of how do I put this? As the editor, do you want to, like if I want a job at Mute, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I want a job at Mute. Okay.
Always accepted application.
Okay. That was my question. That was my next question. But I guess that's actually the question. What kind of qualifications would you be looking at for people who want to be a part of Mute? I know you guys had interns when I was there. I saw your interns and do you? Yeah, just what kind of if somebody's looking to join the team?
It's really pretty simple. You just have to be passionate about what you're doing. We one of the things we learned early on is that we don't want people doing we don't want to have an intern doing marketing or advertising and they hate marketing and advertising and they hate cold calling people. We want people that if marketing advertising is your thing, hit us up, let us know, send us a resume, let's meet, let's talk about it, let's figure out how can we exchange services, whether that's monetarily or whether that's you're going to help us out with something and we'll help you out with something. If you need your resume written or if you need your resume looked over, I might be able to help you out with that because I'm a writer. If you need a logo done, and you can help Mute out in some way, and Theron's a graphic designer.
Theron's a wicked artist, by the way. He is really good. Yeah.
So it's all about celebrating that independent culture, and we're all dream chasers, and we're all looking to make our passions a full-time job. So if anybody's passionate about what they're doing and they want to work with us, let us know, and we'll figure out a way that it could be beneficial to both parties.
Yeah. So you talk about making the passion a full-time job. Are you willing to talk about your other gigs? Because I just learned today that you have other part-time hustles. Yeah. Yes. So you want to tell me about your other hustles?
Sure.
See if maybe you can hook me up with some of them. Because Nigerians, we be on our grind.
You have to be here, especially. I'm an educator and a writer. That's been my title for the past 6 years. So when I was in Pennsylvania, I was working I had a couple positions. I was working mainly as an academic advisor. So I would help students at the high school that I graduated from, low income and first generation high school students. I would help them with their college applications. I would take them to college trips. Yeah. I would help them with study skills. I would help them prepare for the SATs. That program was called Upward Bound, and that program was I feel like I grew up there because I was helping the students, but I was also, I started working there when I was about 24, maybe 25. Right? So that whole 25 to 30, I was working there, and at 25, you think you're an adult, but you're really not. Yeah, so from 25 to 30, I was growing up too, and I just felt so blessed that I was able to work at a school that I graduated from and help students who look like me, talk like me. So that's what I was doing there. I also worked as a admissions recruiter for a college. I ended up actually pursuing my master's degree in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I got an assistantship working in a multicultural center. So I would do male leadership workshops there. So that's how I kind of got a knack for wanting to do workshops and speaking in front of people, and just really became really passionate about helping young people. But during that time that I was doing my master's, I actually did, I call it I got saved. You know, a lot of people know getting saved as you came to Christ or you came to whoever. But my getting saved was realizing that what my passions were and pursuing it. I told Sophia this story. I was doing a cleanse. I was supposed to be a 10-day cleanse. I only lasted 8 days, but I think it was like on the 7th or 8th day.
Tell us, I want to hear about your cleanse.
You do or you don't?
I want to. Okay. I want to because I've tried it.
I need to cleanse it out again.
I've tried it, and sorry to interrupt you, but I want to hear about that. What kind of... Was it vegetables? Was it just water and cayenne pepper?
It was the lemon cayenne pepper.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't eat nothing for 8 days.
How? I tried
I think
juice.
I might have snuck like a chip. Well, not even a chip. I was upset. I used to get an attitude because I couldn't have any chips.
I tried doing juice, and the one I did allowed me to eat in the night. Like vegetable, mostly vegetable. I wanted to do it for like 8 days. I lasted like 3 days, and that was it. I'm like,
yeah, it's tough.
Fuck this noise. Yeah. So you were talking about realizing your passion,
right? Yep.
And starting it with like a dramatic change, like a cleanse.
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to continue?
Okay. So what happened is I was starving. You know, I was on this cleanse, and it was funny because I remember it very clearly. I was sitting on my couch, and when you're going through this cleanse, you kind of some people say it's like a high, or you're just hungry, and you kind of you feel really connected. During that time, I was doing a lot of yoga. I was making sure I was like, I don't know was I meditating at the time? I might have started meditating around that time. But anyway, I was feeling really connected spiritually to a higher power. And I remember sitting on my couch and just thinking like, my 2 life goals are to write and to help as many people as possible. And that's what I want to do. And when I made the decision in my head, about a minute later, I got a text from an old high school friend that said, "Hey, David, I need a speech written and I'll pay you to write it."
Right. Wow.
So it was like, wow, the second after literally a minute after I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue writing full time. That's actually what it was. I want to pursue writing full time, and I want to be a well enough writer. I want to be a New York Times best-selling writer and make enough money that I can then help people. I can help my family. I can help my community because, you know, you need money to do things.
Of course. You need money to change. Like everybody wants to make a change, but unfortunately, money is involved. You know, you need money, and sometimes actually fame. You need fame.
It helps.
It helps. You know, unfortunately, but that's how the world is. Yeah.
So when I made that decision in my head, and then I got that text like a minute later, I was like, wow, that's God telling me like, you can make money as a writer. You can do this. And that's from then on. That's when I decided I wanted to pursue writing full time. And my master's program. It was master's in public administration, and I was preparing myself to be a program director, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. Like it was what I was doing because I was told all my life that you can't really make a career out of being a writer. You should you can do that on the side, or you can do that as a backup.
That's a hobby.
But but make sure you have your education, make sure you have a 9 to 5. And that day was just like, okay, I'm going to pursue this. And then I started writing for my local, not newspaper, but I started like just reaching out, trying to do whatever I would just write and just try to, and slowly but surely it led to paying jobs, and I wrote for free for a while, and little by little, you know, I built myself up, and I'm blessed to say now that I have like some good credits. As a writer, you know, I've written for a couple websites. I'm still freelancing for a couple websites, and I'm still every day trying to make it up to even bigger publications.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. This leads me to a question that I will ask you now, but I want to come back to it. I want to talk about your writings. Do you have anyone writing that you're proud of? By the way, I didn't know Theron wrote a book. He told me. Yep. He's like he does everything, you know.
The 7th note.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So I want to know more about your writing. Is there anything out there that I could go out and look at? I mean, it doesn't have to be a book or anything. Like just a sample. I mean, apart from how about we put it this way? Is there anything, any little, it could be little, it could be big, that you've written that you're most proud of?
That's a good question.
Ever since you discovered yourself,
and I'm most proud of.
Yeah, or that you're really proud of that.
Yeah, I'm a hip hop head, so I grew up on hip hop. I grew up on listening to people like Jay-Z and Nas.
Yeah.
So I've written like when their albums come out, like I'm excited to first of all listen to the album and then write a review for the website. So I wrote a review for a Nas album that a lot of people seem to like it. They like, I don't know if it's just because they were my family and friends on Facebook, but they really liked it, and I liked the article. I just liked the way that it came out. Same with the Jay-Z article. I wrote one article for our cover artist a year ago. Her name was Maya Azucena. And she's a great artist. She tours all over the world spreading. Like she's like a U.S. ambassador. She she has a great positive message with her music.
Nice.
And I wrote her cover story, and she sent me a text message because we kind of became friends throughout the process. And she just sent me a text message just telling me like how much she really liked my article. And she just said like she felt like I captured her journey. So that was like a big, because a lot of times as a writer, you don't really get too much. That. Like I feel like, okay, people like my writing, but how much do you like it? So sometimes it's good to get that yes, you really like it.
Yeah, that's
cool.
That's the struggle with every kind of art. Sometimes you get compliments and you don't even pay attention to it. I'm sure there has been times when I'm sure there have been many people who have told you that they like your writing or that they find it really good or interesting, but just because they mentioned it in passing, you didn't maybe appreciate it. I know that happens to me. Like if I come out of stage, like if I just finish performing and somebody says, good job, sometimes I just say thank you and I keep going. I don't even put a lot of thought into it. But lately I've been learning to appreciate that. Appreciate every thank you, every good job, every I really enjoyed it, every you sounded good, Because why do I do that? Because I've noticed that if one person gives me one negative remark, I end up dwelling on that. Like if I come out and say, instead of dwelling on the good. So if somebody says, "Wow, you sucked," or you were kind of off key on that song, I think about it the whole day.
Right. I think all of us do that.
So
hold on to that.
Yeah. So but I've been trying. I don't know if you've had my next question was going to be like a really ratchet question. Okay. So I'm going to ask it this way. I'm going to make it a little classy. Screw it. Let me make it ratchet. Have you had any haters since you started doing mute? Or started writing, or have you had people who discouraged you and told you, "Hey, this is not for you," or "You shouldn't be doing this"? Some people do it out of love too, like your family members. And
I don't know if I would say they were haters, but I mean, my guidance counselor told me that I couldn't really be a writer. Like,
interesting,
So. And it's funny because when she wasn't my counselor, but she was a college advisor. And it was funny because when I ended up working back at the high school, she was my boss then. And we got along really well. She probably didn't even remember that she said that to me. Wow. But that was something that always stuck to me.
Yeah.
And then in the small city that we live in, unfortunately, in small cities, it's kind of hard to get people to support you until a bigger city supports you. For example, it's funny. I thought this was so funny because we can track the views on our website, and there's more people in India that visit the website than in our hometown.
Interesting.
To me, that's hilarious.
Wow.
So it's like you gotta, I don't know, you gotta really convince your hometown, and it's sad because you can go away and get more love. Like New York is the state that visits the website the most, and we're not from New York. We're not. But it's just funny sometimes you got to go away to get that hometown love.
Yeah.
And I know it's just a mentality thing, and I don't hold any grudges or anything. My main goal is still to become a millionaire and give back to my community.
That's what's up.
That's the goal.
That is good. That's good. Now, let's talk about Reading. Let's talk about you in relation to Reading. You were born there, right?
Born and raised, yeah.
Born and raised. Okay. I want to know how you grew up.
Okay.
What kind of home?
Getting deep.
Yes. That's why it's called Doing Art. And
all right, cool.
Yeah, we do it all artsy and stuff. So, yeah.
I grew up in a great environment. Like, I grew up in the projects from the time I was 1 or whatever, and then we moved out of the projects when I was 10 years old. But to me, at the time, you don't realize it's the projects, but it's if it's what you grew up in, it's like, I loved it. We knew everybody on the block. My parents still took us we were one of the only families that went on family vacations, and we had cookouts and things like that, but we were in development. So what happened, I was around 10 years old. My mom ended up getting a better job, and we were able to move out of the projects into the suburbs. And my dad was always there. I was one of the lucky people who grew up in a 2-parent home.
Wow.
And I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest. Around 10, we moved to the suburbs. What I thought was the suburbs. I later realized that it wasn't the suburbs. I realized when I got to college, like, what a cul-de-sac is, and I was like, oh, these are real suburbs. Where we moved to was just like a come-up hood. Yeah. That's what we would call it. It was better than where we were, but it was still just row homes.
In the housing the housing project, I didn't grow up in the project. I didn't grow up in the U.S. So in a way, it's kind of a foreign concept to me.
Okay.
But in another way, I know a few things about it. Because in Pittsburgh, I did a lot of work, a lot of volunteer work that took me to the project, made me spend a lot of time there. Of course, all projects are not the same thing. All housing developments are not the same thing. What can you... I want to know, like... Is there anything you that would make you say, wow, I'm never going back there? And is there anything that you kind of miss, or you kind of gives you nostalgia in the
Well, yeah, my grandmother still lives there, so I go back. I go back not all the time. I would be lying if I said that, but I go back on a regular basis, and. Yeah, so I go back on a regular basis, and I'm sorry. What was you said? Do I go back, and then what was the second part?
Is there anything you
miss about it?
Oh
yeah, the community. We were, we played, hide and go seek and red light, green light till midnight outside, and we had the park right there, and they would turn the hydrant on, and we would get wet, just like to me, it's like the typical hood things that if you grew up in the hood, you missed. The limbes, getting the water ices, and Miss Virginia, who she, I won't say what she did, but she was a character in she was a character in the hood, and there was characters, and looking back, it's like some of the things that I seen at that age is looking back, I can thoroughly remember they would have one day where they would just do a project-wide bust, and they would like get all the drug dealers on that day. And I remember one day specifically, there were row homes, and we were in the first row, and our friends were in the second, and we were playing in between because you have the 2 rows and then you have the grass and everything in between. And I could thoroughly remember, like, they were literally, the cops and drug dealers were literally having a shootout.
Oh my gosh.
One on each side. Not necessarily shooting where we were at, but running up the street. And I remember my dad had to like grab us and throw us in the house. And I don't even think we went into our house. We went into a neighbor's house, but it was just chaos. And I can remember, you know, we would get, I was only there till 10 years old, and we would get into fights. Like, it was a normal thing for us to fight on a regular basis. I don't know what we were fighting about at 7, 8 years old, but we would fight other kids and then be friends with them the next day or not. And me and my brother found needles on where we played before. So looking back now, it's like, that's a lot to go for a little kid to be exposed to, for a family to live in. But it was what we knew, and we loved it, and we were able to get out of it because our parents worked hard and moved us out of that situation.
Right. And for instance, I don't know about other parts of the country, but I know there's this kind of push to eliminate the projects or change them to a different, change the neighborhoods, like in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I know of very much. They've been tearing down a lot of the projects, and some people kind of, I don't know, there's this kind of weak resistance they give to it, and they have their argument, they have their point about the neighborhood having produced a lot, having given birth to a lot of culture, you know, and now tearing these neighborhoods down, physically tearing them down, just breaking down the houses and letting people develop new houses there and renting it out to every kind of, essentially gentrifying it, you know. So I don't know. Did any kind of thing like that happen in Reading? And
oh yeah, that's going on right now in Reading. There's a man named Al Boskov who's buying everything up and getting grants from the state. And the money is just circling around with these same people that don't actually live in the city or have any real vested interest. They come in, they build their, right now there's apartment development. There's a new movie theater that was just built. A statue of Mr. Boskov.
A statue of him?
Yes.
Is he a black guy?
No. That's not what's the word I'm looking for? Pompous or anything, right? But so that's what's going on. Like, they're doing these things, and they say it's for the development of the city, but the actual people that live in the city are not seeing any of the benefits of it. You know, it's poverty pimping. They're they're getting money because it's a poverty-stricken area, but they're not doing anything legitimate to change the poverty. That's
the thing. And it turns out that we live in a democracy, but I think it's just a facade. I just think it's fake democracy. You know, they keep talking about how everybody has a say, but the poor people don't have a say. And
not at all.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Let's talk more about
topic,
that's another time. Yeah. So you did elementary school and junior high. Yep. Let's go to high school, you know, because that's probably when you started realizing that you want to be a writer, or that you are a writer.
Actually, I knew since I was very young. Oh, wow. And it's funny that I'm working on a book now, and by actually going through all the different instances, because my book has a lot to do with spirituality and God. And one of the things I realized while writing the book is that God has been telling me I was a writer since I was 8 years old. When I was in 3rd grade and I turned 8, I asked my parents for a typewriter. Like, most kids don't ask for a typewriter; they ask for a bike or whatever.
What did your parents say?
They got it for me.
Oh, they got it for you.
I remember it. I was very excited. I had a
so
white
they must
Pepsi
be
shirt on, white Pepsi sweatshirt on on my birthday when I got it.
So they must be very, very supportive of your choice.
Yes, my dad still asks me, "Did you get a job yet?" Or like, I'm like that. I don't want. No, I have my part-time jobs.
Yeah, of course.
I could have had a full-time job, but it would take me away from the ultimate goal. So my dad, he gets it. He's like, "You're an entrepreneur, huh?" Mm-hmm. He always asks me that. Wow. And I'm like, "Yeah, Dad." And then he'll ask me in the same breath, "Did you get a full-time job yet?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want a full-time job, Dad."
Wow.
But they've been very supportive. Without them being behind me and supporting my education, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now.
So okay. Now let's go to you did high school, elementary school, junior high, and high school in Reading.
Yep.
Did you go to college in Reading?
I went to college in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes from Reading. So that's where I went to college.
Oh, okay. I used to live I went to school in 2 years of master's degree in University of Delaware.
Okay.
In Newark, Delaware. And I usually come to Philly on the weekends, and I pass Westchester most of the time. Yeah. So, what did you study?
I studied English. I studied literature, actually.
Oh, okay.
With a minor in journalism. Oh. Which was not...
So you're a trained writer. I didn't know that.
I'm trained in studying literature that I wasn't even interested in. I should have went to Kutztown and studied professional writing. Mm-hmm. Kutztown was only a half an hour away from my city, and it was the school that nobody wanted to go to because it was so close to where you grew up. But at that time, I just felt I felt like I was doing the right thing. I'm going to college, but I actually should have went somewhere where they had a professional writing major. I mean, that would have made sense. But I didn't. I actually picked Westchester. My first choice was Temple. I didn't get into Temple. And Temple and Westchester were the only schools I visited in high school. So Temple had a lot of black people, which is why I wanted to go. Westchester had the second amount of black people. So I was like, I'm going to go to Westchester.
Now, tell me about
that.
Which
is an ignorant way to choose a college.
It's not.
And I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
I don't think it is. Okay. I'm black. I went to an all-white school.
Yeah.
And every now and then, I had a really good time at Duquesne University. But every now and then, I kind of wish I had gone to a black school, a majority black school. I don't know why, but I feel like I would have learned more about being black in America, for instance.
It's funny you say that because I lie. I visited another school called Lincoln University.
I know Lincoln. It's in Lincoln, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, and I actually got accepted there, and I got a scholarship.
That's a black
there,
school,
and I still
right?
didn't go. Yes,
you didn't go.
I was like,
there's
too many black people for me.
My goodness.
But looking back, it's
yeah.
funny because I had a thought the other day. I was like, well, you didn't go to that all black school, but now you live in Brooklyn, so this is your second chance to be around a bunch of black folks.
Oh, interesting. I know Lincoln. I heard of Lincoln. In fact, one of the first, I think the first president of Nigeria went to Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
His name is Nnamdi Azikiwe. Call him Zik for short. He's been dead for a long time now. He went to Lincoln. That's how I found out about Lincoln, and I read a little bit about it. I was trying to apply to the school for one of my sisters, but I ended up not doing that. Yeah. So how was Westchester? What was your experience?
It was interesting. In high school, I wasn't the type I didn't go out and party and really hang out too much. So I took advantage of that at Westchester. Oh. And it was, I did what I had to do.
You turned it up.
Yeah, I turned it up, as the kids say.
Yeah.
But the people I was hanging around with were not good people for me to hang around with. But it was
why? What makes you think that?
Because
don't be judging.
out of the 8 of us that used to hang together, myself and maybe one other person were the only ones that graduated.
Oh,
so and I looking back, that was actually the first time where I went somewhere and nobody knew me, and I wasn't, not that I was very popular in high school. I had my core friends, but I wasn't used to being by myself. So I think I accepted people into my life that I probably wouldn't have on other circumstances, and I wanted to hang with them.
But you learned though from hanging with them.
It was definitely a learning experience,
life
for sure.
journey. Yeah. So
it was a stupid time in my life, really.
You might,
did a lot of stupid things.
You might see that stupid, but now, I mean, maybe if you hadn't had those stupid time, you wouldn't be where you are today.
True.
I truly believe that you are the sum of all your life experiences.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
In college, were you a part of any writing group, part of the school magazine?
I was a part. I wrote for the school newspaper.
Oh, okay.
And I had an internship with the Office of Public Relations and Marketing, and I learned a lot about writing press releases.
Yeah.
So I handle my business
Yeah.
to a certain extent, but I should have been pursuing writing passionately at that time, and I wasn't. I was still looking at it as a backup plan, and I was doing little things, writing for the newspaper, and I was thinking, well, I would like to write for a magazine, but it wasn't. And I think, and that's even with the young people I work with now, I try to impress upon them, whatever your passion is, do it. That's what, it's not your passion.
Exactly.
It's not a mistake that you're able to decorate a room nicely. It's not a mistake that you can do math problems really well. It's not a mistake that you like to dress nicely. Those are all God-given talents, and you need to pursue them. So college is great, but don't put your passions or your talents on the back burner for college. And I wish I would have pursued my writing more in college.
I see. Sometimes I think about that too. Like, when I was in grad school, after my third year in the PhD program, I got really depressed. And at that point in time, most of my schoolwork, I went to school for math. Whenever I get the math work, all I try to do is to finish it as quickly as I could. Just get it done, not even worry about learning. And then I would, this happened for maybe, this is the first time I'm talking about this, and it happened for maybe a whole semester. I would just try to get my work done, get a B in it. In grad school, you're not supposed to get a C. A C is like a failure. So I try my best to get a B, and then I'll go play the drums or play the piano. But then I don't know, I'm not a drummer. I don't even play the drums anymore. But then I just picked up the drum and I would play the drum like a drum set. And after that, at the end of that semester was the summer. And that summer I tried to work on some research and I couldn't. I found out that I was actually depressed, and I knew why I was kind of depressed. I knew that it was because I wanted to do music, and I've always had this dilemma because I actually really love mathematics. I work in it right now, but I also love music. So at that point in time was when I told myself, well, you love them both. You really have to create time for the two of them, and maybe eventually find time to just do only music, and if you can, maybe come back to math. And that was my plan. It became a little bit difficult, but my soul was kind of at ease, even though it was difficult to balance them. But now I'm at a level where I balance them fairly well, and I have my plans, which I won't talk about right now, but because this is about you. Let's go back to you. Now we're talking about passion. I just talked about my stories. I asked Theron this question also. Being an artist, do you think I've discovered that the deeper I go into music, making music, creating music, writing chords, writing lyrics, the more I discover that I'm kind of different from a lot of people, And before I knew I was different from people, from maybe people around me, the way I thought things, the way I approached things, the things I cared about, maybe they didn't care about. The things they cared about, I don't really get it. Like sometimes people worry too much about money, but ever since I was young, I had always believed that, money will come. Why worry about money? It's always gonna come. I'm just gonna work hard. It's gonna come. Yeah, it's gonna come. So I was wondering, is that something that you've experienced? Have you noticed that maybe people around you who are not writers, who are not artists, kind of think differently, kind of behave differently? And how do you try to reconcile this difference in dynamics?
To be honest, I think here and just where I'm at mentally and I guess spiritually, and I'm far from where I want to be mentally and spiritually, but I think while in New York, the people that I've attracted into my life or the people that have attracted me into their life have been very like-minded as far as, wanting to do better and believing that they could change the world and pursuing their passions and things like that. And I think it just has to do with where I'm at in my life, and it has to do where I'm at geographically. I think,
of course,
New York is a place where people believe that they can make their dreams come true.
Exactly.
And not so much in Reading, because it's not the norm for somebody.
Yes.
It's the norm for Jay-Z to come out of Brooklyn, out of Biggie to walk the same streets that I now live in Bed-Stuy. He was from Bed-Stuy. You have all these figures and these people who have made it out, and it's not where I'm from originally in Pennsylvania. That's not so much the case, and it's not something. It's something that I realize more now that I'm here. It's a very different mindset, and I kind of knew that's why it was time for me to move and experience life somewhere else.
What kind of prompted the move? When did you just say, okay, I need to move to New York now?
I don't remember exactly when. I remember when the opportunity came, and I remember jumping on it. But what I started getting into vision boards, and I didn't have New York on my vision.
You did vision. You do vision board.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
you should teach me how to do it.
Oh yeah, man. Anything that you want to manifest in your life, put it on your board.
A vision board.
Cut out pictures of it. I've gotten a teaching position because of my vision board. I've gotten a Mac computer because of my vision board.
Wow.
And it's funny because I put a car on my vision board, and the summer program that I was working at in PA, they needed me to pick up the students, so I ended up having a car for the summer. Now, obviously, I wasn't supposed to use it except for the kids, but it was so funny because it was the same make, model, and color as the car on my vision board.
Oh, your vision. Wow, this vision board thing is real. It's really real.
So, I didn't have, and check this out. I didn't have New York on my vision board, but I wrote out an affirmation. I said, I am a successful writer living in Pennsylvania and Brooklyn, and I always knew that I go home to PA almost every weekend because that's still home regardless of.
Is Mute based in New York now?
Mute is wherever me and Theron are at the time.
Okay. So it's kind of based in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're in PA, we'll do. I mean, that's one of the great things that I think about the publication is that we cut off a lot of the overhead costs, and we're doing what, not to sound arrogant, but we're doing what it's taken a whole staff and a whole office full of people to do. We're doing it mobily, and we're cutting off.
That's smart.
But back to what I was saying, I put it on affirmation. I'm a successful writer living in New York and living in Brooklyn and Pennsylvania. And it's funny because I was in Washington Heights for a year, and then ended up getting kicked out of my apartment, and now I'm in Brooklyn.
That's New York. That's New York.
So it's crazy, New
York is crazy.
I forgot about the affirmation, but and one day I'm just like, oh wait, I wanted to live in Brooklyn. I didn't want to get kicked out, but
now you live in Brooklyn.
The universe isn't going to explain to you how it's going to give you what you want, but it's going to make a way, and it gave me what I wanted.
Getting a place to live in New York, it's, man, people who don't live in New York, they don't know. In Pittsburgh, if you want a place, you just go to them. Just go to the place and tell them you you need to rent it, and they'll tell you how much it costs. You just pay your security deposits, and that's it. Like, to get this place where I live in
how
New
long
York,
did it take?
oh my gosh. I mean, it didn't take long, but it took everything. I felt so violated. I felt raped. Let's put it that way.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know. How that's how New York functions. Like, I didn't know you have to present your offer letter from your job. Thank God I have a job. Your pay stubs, like last 3 pay stubs, your tax forms, the last 3 years, which I never kept anyway. I was just lucky that I kept all those. Security deposit, agent fee, and all those things. And then they run your credit. I think it takes them about 3 days to get back to you and tell you whether you qualify for the house. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And they look at your bank account too, like everything, your savings and your checking. And man, like the place I live now, the window, whenever I look at the window, I see another wall. I'm comfortable at this place. But I've been thinking of moving to maybe even a cheaper place, or a place where I can actually see the road when I look at the window. But each time I think of the process, I'm like, you know what? Screw this.
It's not worth it, right?
I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about your creation process as a writer. How do you create your writing? What do you do? Do you come out and look at the sun and say, oh, this is so beautiful, and I'm going to write about what I'm thinking about now? I'm thinking about flying.
Nah, usually I have an assignment or something like there's a fashion website I write for called Viral Fashion and viralfashion.com, and they wanted me to write about how to wear a top coat, or like the long style coats that a lot of the guys and females are wearing now. So that was, a lot of times it's an assignment, so I have an assignment and then I start working on it or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm writing like a feature story and I've interviewed somebody, I like to write out all the quotes first.
Okay.
I like to type out all the quotes, and I like to build the story around the quotes.
Okay.
So that way the story is built around what the person that I interviewed, what they're saying. And
you won't get that from this, by the way, just letting you know, because I'm not a journalist. I just upload this and just put it to the universe.
Nice. Yeah. It's all good.
It's raw.
And poetry sometimes just comes out randomly. Like when I the last poem I wrote, it's called Where's Our Revolution, and I wrote that after the Eric Garner case was the verdict was brought out, and I just felt like sad.
Do you perform at like poetry slams?
I've only read my poetry in public one time. Okay. But it's something I want to do more, because I feel like it's a challenge, and it'll get me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And the ego side of me wants people to tell me, "Oh, that was good." I think everybody wants that. Right? I'm nice. I think I'm nice. I want people to tell me I'm nice.
Part of being an artist. You want to be appreciated, even if your goal is just to do what you're passionate about. It helps if you're appreciated. It helps if you are validated. It kind of gives you validation. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I wanted to have a question. I wanted to ask you a question about living in New York. We talked about it before, but before starting the podcast, you were talking about how you don't have time for, how maybe a day is not enough for everything. Do you discover, has there been situations where you missed out on an opportunity because you just couldn't find the time to fit it in? It happens to me a lot.
Yeah, I would probably, There's been, and I wouldn't even say that it wasn't because I couldn't find the time. It's because I didn't make the time. Something I'm learning just on this journey is that you have to be disciplined. You have to use time management.
Exactly.
And there's enough time, and I've been trying to tell myself, like, I wrote, because I try to write different affirmations. There's enough time in a day for everything. I think that's one of the things, because if you're constantly telling yourself, oh, there's not enough time in the day, or there's not enough time in the day, then the universe will create situations for you to not have enough time in the day. So it's all about, it's all about our thought process and just training our mind to trick the universe a little bit.
Okay. I see that. I still want to learn that vision board thing.
I got you.
Okay. So now, I told you about the two little games or two little segments. One of them is called No You Didn't. I want to call it NYD. So I explained it to you. Tell us a story, like an embarrassing story that happened to you. Something embarrassing that happened to you and you were the cause of it.
Okay.
Or just something embarrassing that you could have prevented.
I was telling Sophia that I couldn't think of anything.
You couldn't think of anything?
Ever since you sent me the email, I'm like, well, what happened that's embarrassing? And then I didn't want to like say nothing's ever embarrassing happened to me.
Maybe you're very prude and you're like goody tissue and everything.
No, see, I didn't want to come across like that. Like as far as work goes, with writing?
Anything. Could be anything. It could be a drinking event. It could be like, I don't know. If you didn't come up with anything, that's fine. Because I plan to have you again. So that's okay.
No,
so maybe we save it for another time.
I know on an interview I did recently, an artist named, those who are familiar with hip hop and kind of 90s hip hop will be familiar with an artist named Cormega. He, what we did was we posted I was interviewing him that afternoon and we posted a question on Facebook like, hey, our editor-in-chief is about to interview Cormega. Does anybody have any questions for Cormega? And if we like your question, we'll send you a free copy of the magazine. So we got some good responses, and one guy asked about a tour that he did in 1980 or something like that. It was sometime in the 80s. And it was actually my fault because I should have researched that question, and I should have made sure that the person that asked the question knew what they were talking about. So when I asked Cormega about this tour in 1980, he was like, 1980? I wasn't even born then. I wish I was on tour then.
Oh, okay.
So I was on. It was a phone interview, so I was like embarrassed on the other end of the phone. Like, oh man, I gotta make sure I'm on point don't make those type of mistakes. So that was embarrassing.
That's a good story. Okay. Yeah, I'll take that.
Is that embarrassing?
That's a good NYD.
I was embarrassed. I was like, Cormega, I'm sorry, Cormega.
Cormega, if you're listening, accept the apology. Now, okay, we're gonna end it with this little game. I don't know what I told you in the email, but I made this up for you and Theron. Theron has played it. It's a silly game. It's called Turn Up or Mute. Right? If you like something, you turn it up. If you don't like it, you mute it. Or do you want it? I like. You like? Okay. You turn it up or you mute it. Okay. All right.
So you're gonna ask me if I like something? And then
I'm just going to
I'm very opinionated, so that's good. Yeah. All right, cool.
And this is random things. Random. They're just random. They don't
sounds good.
Don Lemon. You know him?
Not really, but I've heard, so we're going to mute him.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to ask you why. Punk rock.
Turn it up, because mute covers all different genres. So we definitely got to turn it up.
Okay. Have you covered any punk rock artists?
We have. We featured a band called Indecent. They're punk rock, kind of alternative, but they're dope. They're from New York. High school kids. They're signed to. I don't know if they're still in high school, but they're 18, 19 years old. At the time, they were signed to Warner Brothers, and they were pretty big overseas as well.
Oh, nice.
And they have a following here as well. So
yeah, that's great.
We were happy to have them on the cover.
Homemade ketchup. Not ketchup, homemade ketchup.
I guess turn it up.
Turn it up.
I'm assuming.
Why does everybody think there's something good about homemade ketchup?
I don't know. I mean, ketchup is good.
Ketchup is like a trademark name, I think. Ketchup is like the people who made ketchup first called it ketchup. So anything homemade is no longer ketchup.
Anything homemade.
Like if it's homemade, you can call it ketchup. You can call it your own thing. But I don't know. But I just hate it when you go to a restaurant and they bring a homemade ketchup. I want Heinz ketchup. You understand what are
That's
you
like
trying
my
to
mom.
prove?
She don't want nothing but Heinz ketchup.
Yeah, what are you trying to prove? Anyway, okay,
funny.
well, turn up math.
Oh, it's muted. I hate math.
That is so good. That's like that's so honest. I thought you were gonna want to please me.
No, I'm a writer. Even the kids will come up to me asking me very simple, embarrassingly simple math problems.
Wow.
Ask your friend. I'm a writer.
Interesting. Driving.
Turn up.
Yep. You like driving?
Yeah, I'm. When I go home to PA, I'm like happy because I'm driving.
You're
now,
driving.
and it's so different from having to be in a 3-hour commute. So actually to get in the car and drive around and put my music on and roll the windows down, it's great.
I hate driving. I just feel like I'm wasting time driving, you know. Empire, the show.
Mute 2 times.
Oh,
and I never even seen it, but mute it.
Oh my goodness. He's a hater. Well, it's good. It's good.
I don't know. A hip hop show in quotes on Fox.
On Fox
with a character named Cookie. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can get involved.
Okay.
I actually want to watch it just so I can write a critique about it.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch it one day. I guess mute it. I don't know.
I kind of like it.
It's just funny, right?
It's funny.
It's funny. Like I don't know. I guess it has to do with eyebrows, right? But then it turns into everything.
Yeah, I came to class one day and I told my student my tie was on fleek. They wouldn't stop laughing. They were all white kids. They were laughing their butt.
That's funny.
Yeah. Opera? Yeah, opera.
The mute part of me and us covering all genres and being diverse wants to say turn it up, but the real part of me wants to say muted.
Okay.
I don't know nothing about no opera.
Okay. Weed?
Yeah. Wow, you went there. I say I would say some people should mute it and some people should turn it up.
We want to hear about you. I know the answer.
Leave it at that.
We're going to leave it. Okay, I got your answer already. Babies.
What about them?
Just babies, you know.
Some people should turn them up and some people should mute them. Not everybody should be having babies.
Not everybody. So mute babies, or just have mute babies until they grow up. Give them mute until they grow up.
That might work.
Till they reach 2 years old. Yeah. All right. David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
I had a great time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
The rainy day has come. Oh my goodness, you try to keep up, spite of weakness. I bring you no one, leaving you so blue. I can feel you vex. Could it be your ex? I should get closer now. You gotta tell me how, but I just don't know how. But the feeling keeps getting much stronger. Can I handle this force? This I wonder. But if I was free, I'd give me to you. I wish I was free. Your own. I wish I was free. I'd give me to you. So let the truth be told.
Oh yes, it should.
Maybe I am not gold.
No, not at all. that's a lie.
And maybe in love.
Actually, I'm just afraid of that thing they call love.
But the feeling keeps getting much stronger. Can I handle this force? This I wonder. But if I was free, I'd give me to you. I wish I was free to be your own. I think you should know. I wish I was free. I give me to you. I wish I was free to be your own. I think you should know. I wish I was free. I'd give me to you. Shooby-doo, shooby-doo, shooby-doo-doo-doo-doo. It's funny how you bring so much goodness to me. I try to keep up in spite of my weaknesses. Oh, you ease out my sickness. Why do I make you so blue?
I bet you like that one, girl.
But the feeling much feeling I have for you. Can I handle it? Getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But if I was free, I'd give you everything you want.